I had older sisters that told me I was fat. So, I did what my older sisters did, starved themselves. And then you were so hungry, you would go to the corner store and buy yourself junk food, ice cream, something, because you're hungry. And oh my gosh, the guilt. I ate something that I'm not supposed to eat. Or I ate today and I'm supposed to starve myself. Oh, I remember lots of times like that.
Welcome to the Radical Health Rebel podcast. I'm your host, Lee Brandon. This work started for me several decades ago when I started to see the impact I could make on people, helping them to identify the root cause of their health problems that no doctor could figure out, including serious back, knee, shoulder and neck injuries, acne and eczema issues, severe gut health problems, even helping couples get pregnant after several IVF treatments had failed. And it really moves me to be able to help people in this way. And that is why I do what I do and why we have this show. In this week's episode of the Radical Health Rebel podcast, I spoke with Tina McDermott, who spent most of her life struggling with digestive issues. She didn't understand that the embarrassing gas, bloating, constipation, and yo-yo weight gain and loss that she'd suffered since she was a teenager were all interconnected and thought that she just had to live with it. When Tina learned that she had Lyme disease, which had gone undetected for years and wreaked havoc on her health, along with her digestive issues, she also suffered from extreme chronic fatigue, depression, vertigo, fevers, weight gain, and ultimately Hashimoto's disease. Tina's inspiration for her own wellness journey began when her older sister was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 23 and ultimately took her life at the age of 48. Anna's illness and suffering was a wake-up call for Tina to learn more about how to take better care of her own health and to help others as well. Tina McDermott, welcome to the Radical Health Rebel podcast. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Lee. It's my joy and pleasure.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. So, Tina, to kick things off, could you share with the audience an overview of your own hero's journey? How you went from having embarrassing gas, bloating and constipation to where you are now as a nutrition consultant teaching natural wellness to women and how to live a healthier and happy life.
Absolutely, Lee. It's so embarrassing. Even when I heard you saying that, oh my gosh. Yeah, my sisters when I was younger would call me an Italian nickname called Puzza. Yeah, but I'll go into that in detail later if you want. But so I was anorexic as a child. And when I started eating again, I realized I had a lot of gas and a lot of bloating. It was so embarrassing. Apparently, I had something going on, right? At the age, I was 19, my elder sister was 23. She was diagnosed with breast cancer and she passed away at the age of 48. And that was 11 years ago now. And so she lived a very long life. And from her troubles, from her disease, I wanted to go, and I knew there was a lot of things going on with me and I didn't want to have cancer, right? And I'm like, why do I have all this gas and bloating? I had all these questions. So I read all the books I could and I studied to be a nutritional consultant. And I also found out at the age of 35, I think it was, that I had Lyme disease. And it took me a good 5 years of reading everything I could read, going to every doctor I could figure out, and every natural doctor or practitioner that I could find and get my hands on. And I finally found the solution to eradicate it from my body. So all of this has helped me become a better weight loss coach, a better health coach, a better well-rounded human being in general, because I was able to overcome chronic Lyme, which is likely why I had all of the digestive issues when I was a teenager, and anyhow, so I can get into detail about that if you'd like. And I always feel that my journey has helped other people and I'm very transparent with people. I'll let them know what I went through and it has helped me help them tremendously. And today I'm a lazy inspirational chef. I'm a weight loss coach, and it's my love and my joy to do it every single day and to be healthy and not be in bed all day long in pain and suffering like I was for a good 5 years. So, yeah.
Yeah. So something you just mentioned, something that I was unaware of, because obviously we've spoken before and I've looked at your website. Something you mentioned there was you suffered from anorexia. What age did you have anorexia?
When I was a child, Lee, I would not eat. I remember times when they would force feed me. I wouldn't eat. It was a form of control. I know that. And the other part of me, knowing what I know at 55 and everything that I have studied, that children are very intuitive. And it's likely I wasn't eating because I knew that food was upsetting me. That's my afterthought. But it was I was anorexic. I was the tiniest, skinniest thing, and I wouldn't eat. When I was 12 years old, my parents are from Italy, literally off the boat, Italy. And we'd gone back almost every summer since I was a tot. And at 12 years old, my parents weren't going to Italy, but my grandmom was for the summer. So she took me for the summer. And I came back and I was 20 pounds heavier. I decided it was okay to eat. I guess I got over that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting because, often with anorexia, the most common thing that people say is it's when often people have over-controlling parents, and sometimes it's the only way that the child believes that they can have control over something is to control what they eat. And it's quite interesting hearing your experience that actually it wasn't that in your case, but what it probably was the fact that you knew when you ate, it caused pain, and therefore, you stopped eating for that reason.
And Lee, I'm not going to tell you that it wasn't about control, because there probably was a lot of control there. I was the third child, and I also have a baby brother of an insane Italian family who I love dearly. Okay, I love them dearly, but they were immigrants and they struggled, and it was a crazy household. So I'm not going to tell you that it wasn't to control. There was a piece of that. And the other piece that, as I had said, I'm pretty sure that it was the instinct. I know that children are so instinctive, and people don't believe in their children. If they're not going to eat whatever you're feeding them, it's likely because it doesn't agree with them. And I'm not telling you to feed them donuts and bagels and hot dogs. I'm not telling you that, because it's not what I'm saying.
It's interesting you say that about how intuitive children are. And I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but when I was a toddler, I'm talking 3 or 4 years old, my mum used to go runner beans in the garden. And she'd go into the garden to get runner beans to cook, and she'd see these little teeth marks in them. I absolutely loved raw runner beans, so I would eat them as they were growing. And when she was chopping carrots, I'd always say, "Oh, can I have some raw carrot?" And I loved raw carrot, right? My mum would then boil the carrot and the runner beans, and I couldn't eat it. I didn't like it. So what does that tell you about my intuition as a child? It tells you that I knew what nutritious food was, and I knew what food was that lacked nutrition. I didn't want it. I'm talking 3 or 4 years old, and it shows you how, when we're at that age, how much wisdom we actually have, and how, as we grow up and we go through conditioning, that we almost unlearn how to eat properly and how to be healthy.
It's true. That's very, very true. And I teach parents, like, if they have children, you see those refrigerators that have a drawer in the middle that they can, it's called a toddler drawer, at least I think. You put all the little snacks in there for the kids, healthy snacks like raw vegetables and olives and nuts and everything, and allow them to eat when they want, how they want, their foods. And I bet you anything they will grow up to be so strong and so sound with their entire constitution, because they will eat what they need. Their body, they know, just stop steering them the wrong way towards, the fast food places or the junk food.
Yeah. Yeah. Sadly, marketing's very powerful, isn't it?
Makes me crazy, Lee.
Yeah. So what age were you when your grandmother took you to Italy?
I was 12.
Okay, so you were 12. And was that a turning point for you in terms of your anorexia?
Yes.
So that kind of finished on that trip.
It did, and I can tell you that it didn't stop the even anorexia. It's all emotions, right? It's a control emotional piece. I cannot tell you that got better, because it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't. I came home 20 pounds heavier, and I had 2 older sisters who made fun of me like crazy that I was fat at that point. It was terrible. I went from being too skinny to too fat, and it was an emotional roller coaster. Yeah. Which is why one of the major things I can say that sets me apart from most people is, when it comes to weight loss, is I help you with the emotional issues. It's not about the food. Not about the food.
Yeah.
Well, it is, but it's not.
So at what point did the gas, the bloating, and the constipation start for you?
Start or stop?
Start.
I remember when I was in Italy that summer with my grandmom, and I was eating everything. I was eating, because if you've ever been in an Italian household, or when my grandmom goes to Italy, she goes and visits this sister, that cousin, that cousin. So we're going from house to house to house. And even if you just had breakfast or you just had lunch, you're going to eat. And so I ate, and I ate things that I hadn't eaten in a long time. And I remember telling my aunt in Italy, I'm like, oh, it hurts. It hurts on the inside. I can't explain it. And so I can tell you it's likely that's when it really started my awareness that what was going on, that there was a lot of gas, bloating, and constipation. Like, yeah.
Okay, so he was around 12 years old when you became more aware of it. What was it like going through that? What was it like having, the bloating, the pain, the constipation?
Embarrassing, because, I was gassy and I was painful all the time. And I felt like an outcast from everyone else, because I needed to go over there. And let out some gas. And it's not fun being stinky, especially because your sisters would call you stinky all the time. And my mother was also, I would say, absent. She was present, but she was absent. She was dealing with her own emotional struggles in her life. And we joke, her name is Avelia, and she was on Valium. So we call it Valium. Anyhow, so it was very embarrassing, very, outcast, more of an outcast, I felt, for the most part, and in pain. And I had a hard time going to the bathroom. It wasn't fun. Yeah. And there really wasn't anyone to care for me and take care of me and teach me that how to make my life better, easier, healthier, because you eat pasta. You eat whatever my mom and dad put on the table. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. There is no good food, bad food. There's no, they didn't understand about allergies. They didn't understand about any of that stuff. They just didn't. And so it was tough, Lee. I can tell you, honestly say it was very tough.
And, you've spoken about family, but did it have a knock-on effect to you at school?
Did it have an effect on me at school? As I was saying, it was... Okay, most of the summers I would go away to Italy for the summer. Everyone else hung out with each other over the summertime, and I was gone. And then I come back to school, I was always the outsider. And I might have had 1 friend or 2 friends, but I wasn't part of the big group. So that was a piece of it. And also, like I said, I was stinky. So I sat in the back of the class and I was in pain a lot. I was just the awkward person. And I also had glasses. I had poor eyesight. Anyhow, so I was an awkward kid. I think I'm an awkward adult too. No, I'm not. No, I'm teasing. I was an awkward kid. It was tough. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I can remember being at school, particularly teenage years, and we had very hard seats. So they're either hard plastic or wood. So if you were gassy, then they would tend to make a rather loud noise, which, I mean, I guess for me, if that was me, it was laughed at, and it wasn't necessarily people were laughing at me; they were laughing at the noise.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess being a lad, being a boy, you become a bit of a comedian if you can make a noise that makes people laugh, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. No, it wasn't like that for me.
Yeah, I'm sure. So one of the things I know about you as well is that you tended to yo-yo diet as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I had older sisters that told me I was fat. So, I did what my older sisters did, starved themselves. And then you were so hungry, you would go to the corner store and buy yourself junk food, ice cream, something, because you're hungry. And oh my gosh, the guilt. I ate something that I'm not supposed to eat. Or I ate today and I'm supposed to starve myself. Oh, I remember lots of times like that as a teenager. And then I became a vegetarian for some years, about 10 years through my 20s. And even then, it's got to lose weight, right? Always got to lose weight. It's this emotional. And someone told me about this particular program that would not only help me with thyroid issues, but would also help me lose weight. I did not need to lose weight at this time. I was in my 30s. And I did this highly restrictive program that just wasted my metabolism, just turned it completely off. And here I am, an athlete. I was a personal trainer. I was active all the time, the perfect size. I didn't need to be any smaller, but, I thought I did. And I lost, 10 pounds that I didn't need to lose. And it messed up my metabolism. So it's the entire life of this yo-yo dieting. And what happens when you mess your metabolism up, when you go back to eating normal, because most programs don't teach you how to eat normal afterwards, the weight comes back on because it comes back with friends because your metabolism is lower. So you end up gaining even more weight. And a lot of those programs, all they care about is the number on the darn scale. And muscle is much easier for your body to consume than fat. And muscles dictate metabolism. So if you are losing muscle, then your metabolism tanks.
Yeah.
And then you go back to normal eating and you gain the weight back and some friends. Because what you need to do, and this is again what I teach, is deal with the emotional struggles, those emotional chains that are keeping you where you are in this emotional yo-yo. Food is good. Food is good for you. It's the right kind of food. And they're like you said, Lee, that just makes me insane that the marketers do a good job on us. They really do. And it's sad that it's misunderstood the right way to eat for the rest of your life. And that's what I teach now. I teach a Live It program, how to live the rest of your life healthy. Yeah.
So with regards to, being that, let's call it the right size or right size and shape, it's almost like that's something that's been part of your life, certainly the early part of your life, maybe not so much nowadays. What for you, because, we often hear what the reasons are, but I believe everyone's different. I'm guessing, you felt pressure to lose weight, but I guess my question is, where do you think, if my assumption is correct that you felt pressure to lose weight, where do you think that pressure came from?
Society. Period. The pressure comes from society. It's all around. The pressure also comes internally when you don't fit into your clothes like you want to. And most often not fitting into your clothes is because you're gassy and bloating and you've got some toxins going on, right? And my sisters, of course, when I was younger, it was definitely my sisters that started that, what I call the gremlins going on in my head. And I'm not going to lie, Lee, there are days that those gremlins creep in and I work to calm them down. I work to calm them down and that, it's okay. It's okay to be me. It's okay. I'm going through menopause. Give yourself grace. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to be where you are. And so there's some days that I have to talk through those things.
Yeah.
Talk through, meditate through, walk it through. Yeah.
Gotcha. So in terms of the pressure to be a certain size and shape, there was external pressure from society, from your sisters, but there was also this internal pressure to feel comfortable, and not only to feel comfortable physically, I guess, but also to fit better in your clothes and I guess to look better.
Yeah. I thought you needed to be a certain size, that this is where you're supposed to be. And I was also a gym rat. And as a personal trainer, I'm in the gym all the time. And you're surrounded by that. You're surrounded by people who want to lose weight and get fit. And it's fine. It's my journey, right? It's what I'm called to do to help other people get fit. And now it's about, let's get healthy. Let's get healthy first. And the weight loss will come as a side benefit of getting healthy. And yes, you need to exercise, but you don't need to be a maniac at exercising like I used to be, right?
Yeah.
It's a little more balanced, right? A lot more balanced.
Absolutely. It's all about balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
When 35-year-old Amanda first scheduled to see me, she'd been suffering for 19 years from severe IBS, diarrhea and fecal incontinence, along with abdominal pain and bloating. Her condition had not only made life uncomfortable for Amanda, but very inconvenient as she had to walk 2 hours to work every day along a route that had public toilets, and she'd never been on holiday as an adult because of her condition. The only advice that several doctors and specialists had given Amanda was to take Imodium, and when she first saw me, she was taking 5 Imodium a day and wasn't getting any better. To help Amanda, I ran tests to find out what foods were right for her metabolic type, to see which foods she was sensitive to, and to assess her gut microbiome. Tests showed that Amanda had several food sensitivities and a parasite infection. Over the coming weeks, I coached Amanda to eat right of her type and to replace the foods she was sensitive to, and a protocol to deal with her parasite infection. And after 3 months, Amanda was IBS-free, and she also reported her skin was much improved and she had lost weight. And she booked a holiday for her and her husband to New York, as they'd never been on a proper honeymoon because of her IBS. And if you're suffering like Amanda was, and you want to get to the root cause of your problem, you can arrange a consultation with me at www.bodycheck.co.uk. And if we're a good fit, I could help you achieve the same kind of results as Amanda. Now, back to the podcast. So, looking back, what do you feel now, looking back, was the cause of your gas, bloating and constipation?
Likely I had Lyme, first of all. And I'm pretty sure that I probably got the Lyme as probably a teenager, maybe even as a child. I don't know. Because I was always the girl, outside playing in the woods. And I had cats that slept with me that, were indoor, outdoor cats. And my mom and dad never did any kind of flea and tick protection. And so I think that's a big piece of it. When you've got bacteria and parasites in your body, that's a huge piece of it. And that builds up sensitivities to foods. So my strong inclination is to say that it's your genes, right? Your original constitution and certain foods that would trigger those things. And, I can say gluten. Gluten is a big one. And I grew up with pasta and sugar. I remember as a kid, the only thing that I would eat, and this was sad, it's a zabayone. I don't know if you know what zabayone is. It's raw eggs whipped with sugar. So they whip the raw eggs with sugar.
Like meringue.
Like kind of a meringue, but you whip it with a fork, and then you get the yolks, and then you get the whites, and you whip those up with the mixer, and you mix all of it with sugar, and I would put it on toast with butter, and that's all that I would eat. Yeah, I think that destroyed my intestines and my whole digestive system, eating all that sugar. And she would slice oranges and put sugar around them, and that's what I would eat. You think that I would know, or that my instincts would know better not to eat the sugar. But anyhow, I think that really damaged my intestines and my whole digestive system, and perpetuated the Lyme along with all the sugar. It perpetuated the sensitivities to foods. Look, today I can eat a little gluten. I'm fine. I can eat a little dairy, a lot of dairy, actually. I love dairy. I can eat a lot of that and I'm fine. The sugars, I can have a little bit. Sugars, I find when I do eat sugars, the next day I feel depressed. It's kind of, it affects my brain. Well, the Lyme affected my brain. So a lot of things affect my stability. All right. And I know when I've had sugar or things that, my brain doesn't function and I don't feel good emotionally. It's kind of weird. Not weird. It just is. Right. And so you were asking what foods am I sensitive to, right? Or what brought that on? I'm just trying to circle back.
Well, I was just asking what you felt looking back actually caused the gas, the bloating, and the constipation.
Oh, yeah. It's the lots of starches, lots and lots of carbohydrates. I hate to say carbohydrates because vegetables are carbohydrates. But yeah, starchy foods. I was probably drinking Diet Coke at the time too. Who knows? My sister always drank Diet Coke, so I would have Diet Coke with her. Just processed food. But see, my parents never let us go to fast food restaurants. And if we did, we sneaked it. So I don't know. Mostly starches, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. As you were speaking then, I was kind of thinking, okay, you're from an Italian family. You know, you was eating lots of pasta as a child, probably eating a lot of bread as well, I would imagine. And I was just thinking, I wonder how far back it goes to when people in Italy started eating pasta. I don't know if you're aware of when they started eating pasta in Italy. I imagine it wasn't, from an evolutionary point of view, it wasn't that long ago.
I don't know. I know how pizza started in Italy, but it started actually in China. I know that story, but how did pasta come about? I don't know. I don't have an answer. I'm going to research that in Italy. When did pasta come about? Because if you know, back in centuries and centuries ago, when the rich people, they wanted their light and fluffy bread, and the poor people got the harder grains. And who was healthier, the rich people or the poor people? The poor people, because they were eating the tougher grains, basically. Yeah. They weren't eating the light, fluffy bread that didn't have anything left in it, right? So I don't know when pasta came about. You asked a really good question.
It's interesting, you know, having worked with people from Italian families in the UK, and, you know, you kind of realize that actually they can't really deal with gluten-containing foods. And they say, yeah, but I'm Italian, I have to eat pasta, right? But when you look back at history, you know, we know that agriculture only started 9,000 years ago in Saudi Arabia. So from an evolutionary point of view, people with, let's call it, Italian ancestry wouldn't have evolved eating pasta. You know, it's a bit like, you know, I have the same conversation with people from Ireland, and when you tell them that potatoes aren't native to Ireland, they almost go into a nervous breakdown because it's such a staple of their diet.
It's true.
So yeah, it's interesting. It'd be interesting to find out when, I guess, wheat was introduced to Italy and when they started producing pasta. That'd be quite interesting to find out.
You know, I'm going to research that and send it to you. I do have to tell you something really funny. My husband still eats pasta, and he gets mad at me. He says, I want pasta. I'm like, then you're going to make it yourself, because I am not making you pasta. He goes, I'm going to tell your mother on you, he says to me. He says, what Italian wife doesn't make pasta for her husband? I said, this one.
So you mentioned Lyme disease. Now, here in the UK, it's not as common, Lyme disease, or certainly not recognized as much in the UK as it is in the US. So for the audience, can you describe what Lyme disease is?
Certainly. Lyme disease actually was first diagnosed in Lyme, Connecticut. Literally, the name of the town is Lyme, Connecticut. And they started noticing people with tick bites and correlating that to them feeling very, very ill. And ticks, when they bite you, can inject parasites and bacteria, and they can give you upwards of 20 different diseases. I think it's 20. Don't quote me on that. So it's not just Lyme. There's Bordetella, there's Babesia, there's Bartonella, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, Ehrlichia, and that's all I can remember off the top of my head. I had 4 of them when I was finally diagnosed and found out that what was happening is I was tired. I'm an athlete, and I was tired all the time. Tired. And my girlfriend had B12 shots, so she gave me a couple. I'm like, they didn't help me at all. And the doctor said it was my thyroid. So we treated the thyroid, and I was going downhill. And some months later, he tested, and I came up positive for Lyme. Many people are 70% false negatives. So the Lyme test will come up as negative, and you still have Lyme. So it's a real tough disease to diagnose and also to get rid of, because you have to know what they're called are co-infections to Lyme, and whether it's their Babesia or Ehrlichia, they're called co-infections, and you need a Lyme literate doctor. I know people who have suffered from Lyme without a diagnosis. They know it's Lyme, and they can't get the treatment that they need, and they end up dying a terrible death.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not fun. And for me to tell you that I was able to get rid of my Lyme is unheard of. I do not have Lyme in my system.
So what age was it you was diagnosed, and what age do you think you actually contracted it?
I was 35 when I started on my journey of not feeling well. And I'm pretty sure that I had it, Lyme in my teenage years. Can't tell you the exact year, but I can tell you that a lot of my symptoms, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was from the Lyme. And I've been like that since I was a kid. And I'll tell you one of the symptoms, and it's kind of wackadoodle, but it's like you feel like you're floating. You feel high, and you feel, like you're floating, and you're very distant. And it's really an odd feeling. And I know once I read about it and I learned about that as being one of the symptoms, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been like that all throughout my teenage years. And what happens is, occasionally you get sick and you get take antibiotics. Well, the antibiotics help to push them down, but does not kill the Lyme completely, because they go in hiding and then they come back out again, and then they go in hiding. And so I'm pretty sure that my immune system was pretty strong, so it pushed them down. I also probably had antibiotics for this or that. And then they came out to play in my mid-30s. I probably got bit again. Actually, I remember I was at an exercise class in the winter. Winter was very difficult to find. I found a tick right here on my chest, engorged. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I left the class, and I, got rid of him. And then I got really sick soon after that again. So I'm sure that it was chronic, and then I got infected again. Yeah. Did that answer your question, Lee?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Which kind of leads me on to my next question. You also suffered from chronic fatigue.
Through the Lyme.
That was because of the Lyme.
Yeah, that was all through the Lyme. The chronic fatigue was all from Lyme. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that you suffered from as well was depression. Was that Lyme, or was that something else?
I would say the depression Lyme disease affects your brain. It affected my brain. I know it did. I always thought that I was just not the smartest person in the world until I got rid of the Lyme and my brain just turned on, which gets affected with sugars and MSG, right? And I know that because it's my blood-brain barrier is not as thick as most because of the Lyme. I would have to say that a lot of issues with depression and such could stem from, and I'm not saying this with everybody, could possibly stem from digestive issues and bacteria and parasites.
Yeah.
Can it be genetic? Absolutely. And we also look at the nutrition. What are you eating? Are you getting enough nutrition? Is your brain getting what it needs? And I know, I said this earlier, that when I eat sugar, I'm like, oh, I can have a piece of that cake. I'll be fine. And the next day, I just don't have it. And I look back and I'm like, darn it. I know that I really can't be eating that stuff. And I did it anyway. So, yeah. So that's my take on the depression piece.
Yeah. I mean, I've certainly worked with clients who have had, some quite severe gut issues going on, and they're also depressed. And then, when you clean up the gut, voila, their mood just improves. We know about the gut-brain axis, right? And we know about the vagus nerve and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm completely in agreement for some people, and it's definitely not all people. If you clean up the gut, then the brain is positively affected by that.
Absolutely.
Another challenge that you've had is vertigo. Again, some people might not know what vertigo is. So could you just explain what vertigo is?
Vertigo is when you can't stay balanced. You can't walk a straight line. You get dizzy all of the time. Like you stand up and you're very dizzy, or you're just standing here and all of a sudden you just feel like you're spinning. And that was from the Lyme. Positive, well, from Lyme disease generated vertigo. But that's what vertigo is. And the actual vertigo is an inner ear issue that can get fixed through a few physical therapy exercises.
Yeah.
Mine got cleared up again just by clearing up the gut.
Right. Interesting. That's really interesting. Yeah, it's the Epley maneuver, isn't it? That is one of the maneuvers that you can use to help with vertigo. Another issue that you had was Hashimoto's. Again, for the audience, can you explain what Hashimoto's is and what kind of symptoms that you had?
Underactive thyroid. Underactive thyroid, Hashimoto's, so it's hypothyroidism. And this was in my 30s when I was diagnosed, and I, was starting to feel really fatigued and tired and falling asleep at the wheel. And my hair was falling out, not terribly, but enough. And dry skin. It was dry skin. I'm trying to remember other symptoms that I had at the time. But again, it was thyroid, but it was the Lyme that attacked my thyroid, just so that we get this straight. I know that it was the Lyme that attacked my thyroid. I also remember as a young teenager, the doctor would always test my thyroid and with his hands, and he goes, something's not right in there. Obviously, something's not right in there. So doctors can do tests, not just blood work, but also touch your throat and figure it out. But anyhow, the dry skin.
Weight gain?
Weight gain. Weight gain's another one. I wasn't experiencing weight gain at the time, but I also exercised like a maniac as I was a cyclist. So I didn't have the weight gain issues. And I'm trying to think what else was going on at the time. Just the major fatigue. Major fatigue.
Cold hands and feet?
Always.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's it. Low body temperature. I forgot about that. Yeah. My body temperature is still on the low side, which is 97.5 all the time. I got low body temperature, 97.5. All through the pandemic, I would go into offices, doctor's offices. They check your temperature. I'm like, 97.5, right? Yep. How'd you know? Because I know. Yeah. So low body temperature. So I'm cold all the time. But now I'm going through menopause, so it's a little different. Cold,
bit more
hot,
up and down.
cold, hot.
Yeah.
Cold, hot.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So obviously, normally Hashimoto's is when your own immune system attacks the thyroid. But
I forgot to say that. Yes, that's correct.
But you feel in your case, it was actually the Lyme that was attacking the thyroid.
The Lyme was attacking it. Yes, it's an autoimmune disease. So it's your body is attacking the thyroid. And I'm blaming everything on the Lyme because my whole life just went downhill from the Lyme. But why would I even develop an autoimmune disease? Why? Because my body was riddled with parasites and bacteria.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my take on it. And sorry for not explaining the autoimmune issue. But yeah.
So we've spoken about gas, bloating, constipation, yo-yo dieting, weight gain, Hashimoto's, Lyme disease, depression, etc., etc. Yeah. Was there a point where you kind of went, enough's enough? Or was there a light bulb moment, a eureka moment where things just changed for you?
A eureka moment in my life?
Yeah. What I see with clients quite often is they get to a point, like for some people it's rock bottom. For other people, it might be there's something comes up that they want to achieve, or it might just be they might have listened to my podcast maybe and thought, oh, there is someone that can actually help me. So was there a moment in your life that kind of changed your direction?
I think all of the moments in my life has brought me to where I am now. Mm-hmm. Did I have some major moments in my life that shifted me here and there? Yes. I'm thinking of a few now when I decided I'm done working in the corporate world and I just packed up and went to Italy and guided bike trips for 5 years. So I'm not living my life behind somebody else's desk. I'm going to live my life on my terms. And I did. And then I made the decision I wanted to be in America. I wanted to live in America and I wanted a mate. So I made a decision. I wanted a husband and I found him. And, I'm just thinking eureka moments. I was working in other people's gyms and I'm like, I want my own. And I did. I opened up my own personal training studio and I loved it. And then pandemic hit and I'm like, I'm done. I was done with the studio anyway. On to the next part of my life. And now I work from home and I love it. I absolutely love working from home. I love every part of my life. And even with the downs of my life, downs meaning all of the struggles I've been through, it has just made me a well-rounded, balanced person that I am so that I could help that many more people.
I first met Amelia at a health club where I was hosting an event offering back screenings to the members. The first thing I noticed about Amelia was a dullness in her eyes, which I later realized was due to extreme pain, and I noticed that she was unable to turn her head and had to turn her whole body if she wanted to look in a different direction. Amelia informed me that she had a history of repeated shoulder and neck pain for the last 2 years and was diagnosed with spinal stenosis at C4-5, C5-6, and C6-7, and a stenosis is a blockage which in Amelia's case was in the spinal canal of her neck, irritating her spinal cord. She had extreme tenderness over her neck and trapezius muscles on both sides, and she suffered from severe neck pain continuously. Amelia informed me that she'd been advised that spinal surgery was the only option, but the surgery came with great risks, including potential paralysis, and no guarantee of success, which made Amelia fearful of the surgery. In addition to this, Amelia suffered from continuous exhaustion, painful intestinal gas and bloating, even though she felt she was following a healthy diet. After a thorough evaluation, I designed Amelia a corrective exercise, nutrition, and lifestyle plan, plus I referred her to a Nuka chiropractor for specific adjustments to her neck. After following the plan religiously, Amelia is much stronger and much more flexible than she's ever been before, and no longer suffers from repeated neck pain and has full range of motion in her neck. Amelia also reported that her energy was maximized and that she no longer suffers from the gripping stomach pains that had dominated her life for a very long time. If you're suffering like Amelia was and you'd like to find out more about getting to the root cause of your pain, go to www.bodycheck.co.uk, that's BODYCHEK.co.uk, to request your consultation. Yeah. Well, I guess what the question was at what point in your life did you go from being unhealthy to being able to actually deal with it and sort it out and get back to health? Like, at what point did that switch?
When my sister was diagnosed with cancer. Thank you for bringing me there. It was a little bit to get me there. When she was diagnosed with cancer, was oh my gosh, I need to be healthy and I need to deal with this gas and bloating. And that's when I just really started picking up books and reading and learning. And then I became a vegetarian for 10 years. Yeah. So that was my eureka moment there.
Okay. So the motivation was to not get really sick. So you started reading. What did you actually do to overcome the gas, the bloating, and the constipation?
You know, I can tell you that I became a vegetarian for a good 10 years, starting at the age of 19. And in my late 20s, I switched over. But I remember still having gas and bloating throughout all of those years, not really understanding. It wasn't until I was diagnosed with Lyme that I started seeing a lot of practitioners and completely changing how I'm eating. And I had to do a lot of detoxification programs. And it was the Lyme that was the next pivotal moment in my life that made me really switch gears to not eating processed foods and glutens and sugars and such, although I do sometimes, but I pay for it. Yeah. So that's the next pivotal moment. You ask good questions, Lee.
So the first step was starting eating better food. Yeah. You mentioned you went through some detox protocols. What kind of protocols did you go through?
Oh, my Lord. I went through several pretty demanding detox protocols where you take certain supplements and you remove all foods and you just start adding one in at a time. Other programs where you just eat fish and vegetables for a week or two on top of the supplements and basically purge the bacteria and parasites from your system. So I think number one step is to stop eating processed foods and start eating foods that Mother Nature made, right? Foods that walk, fly, swim, and grow. That's step number one. And drinking a lot of water.
Yeah. Yeah. So pretty simple things, really. Relatively simple.
Pretty much. Yep.
So with the Hashimoto's, did you find going gluten-free had an effect on the thyroid?
I don't have an answer for that, Lee. And here's why. Because I take medication for it.
Mm-hmm.
There are people, I just had this discussion with my acupuncturist the other day. She decided, she has Hashimoto's, and she decided they caught it early enough, and that she does it all by nutrition. She goes on the AIP diet, autoimmune protocol, and she has no medication. I'm so far into it, 20 some years of taking medication. And she's said that there's probably no way, but no one guided me. And she said, I was lucky. Somebody guided me early on that I can manage Hashimoto's with food. And if I'd have known that then, I probably wouldn't have gone on the medicine. But I know it now, but it's a real hard backtrack, very hard backtrack. But there is a way that you can manage Hashimoto's with food.
Yeah, I mean, I've had clients with Hashimoto's, and I think all of them, when we tested them, I had a sensitivity to gluten. We took the gluten out, I wouldn't say the Hashimoto's went away, but it massively improved at least.
Yeah. You'll massively improve when you when you remove gluten from your diet, from your food, from your eating, because gluten breaks down the cell walls of your intestines and causes autoimmune disease. I mean, not autoimmune, autointoxication, where the food particles literally start into your interstitial fluids. And then there's so much more to it. So yes, anyone with any kind of dis-ease or just in general want to be healthier will benefit greatly from removing gluten from their foods.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you were going through this process, eating better, taking supplements, trying different protocols, did you face any kind of major challenges or hurdles along the way?
Major challenges or hurdles? Give me an example. Major challenges or hurdles.
So one example might be, let's say, for instance, someone ran a test and you were found to be sensitive to a certain number of foods, and then you're like, oh my God, that's everything I eat. That would be one example.
Okay. Well, I think it was challenging at first because you're used to eating this way. It was all, foods from Mother Nature. I would eat really healthy, but then they're like, nope, you can't have the quinoa right now. No, you can't have your rice. You can't have this. And so that is a challenge when you're used to eating one way. And now you're like, well, now what am I going to have for breakfast? Because you've got this habit of eating. I used to eat teff cereal or quinoa that I would pour. It was wonderful. I would pour almond milk on top and heat it up. And it was wonderful. And I liked it. But the grains, even though they were gluten-free, had an effect on me. So I needed to eliminate that. I needed to... So yes, it's a challenge. All of it's a challenge, but you need to just ground yourself, and this is what's going to make me better.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the challenges I see with many clients is change. When you have to change anything, but particularly food, because it can become such a habit for people.
Yep. And
then you kind of say, well, this is causing at least partly responsible for the health problem that you've got. And it might be, again, it might be gluten, it might be anything else, but, I've had clients that eat gluten for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And now you're showing them that they're actually sensitive to gluten, and now they need to change. And, a lot of people are very resistant to change.
It's very difficult.
One of the things that I try to get across to people is, when you initially change something, it feels uncomfortable. But the more you do something that's different to what you've done before, the more comfortable it becomes. And then, if you're doing something every day for a month, it becomes a new habit anyway. But it's just getting through that initial challenging period. And it is challenging. I'm not, belittling it. It is a challenge, but once you start creating a new habit, it becomes part of your everyday life. Like, a lot of people might accuse me of being, what's the right word? Obsessive over food,
okay.
Right? I don't see me obsessive over food at all. I just eat natural foods that are right for me. I rotate my animal-based foods every day. So I have different animal-based foods each day. That's it. That to me doesn't seem obsessive. Food that gives me energy, makes, I'm pretty healthy for someone of my age. I'm still very active. That's not obsessive to me. But then I guess generally people that are calling me obsessive are people that are very comfortable sitting on the sofa, eating McDonald's and drinking Coca-Cola. They probably think that, someone that eats wild Alaskan salmon and, wild boar or grass-fed beef is a little bit, extraordinary. But to me, it's just normal.
I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
I think it's perfect. And if that's the way you want to eat, and it's a wonderful way of eating in my eyes. And if other people think of it's as obsessive, then that's on them. It's like you said, they're happy being couch potatoes and not being healthy. They don't have that aha moment that I'm sure you've had, that I'm sure that, I've had. It's, yeah, you've got to really, really want to change. And talking about habits, what I suggest people do is that they pair habits with habits. So if you're used to eating a bagel for breakfast and you're trying to change how you're eating, why don't you eat half a bagel and have a hard-boiled egg? And this way, and then maybe move to a quarter bagel and 2 hard-boiled eggs. So just pair habits with habits, and you can shift easier. You don't have to shift all at once, going from eating bagels to eating hard-boiled eggs and some spinach or a smoothie, but you can switch gradually if that feels better for you emotionally, and gradually creating your new habit.
Yeah, I mean, again, from my experience working with clients, some clients, they prefer to change things very slowly. So what you was describing is what I would call the rainbow bridge. So you're creating those little steps. I'm someone who, when I make change, I'm a rip the Band-Aid off in one swipe kind of person. So, going back over 20 years when I was suffering really badly from acne, and I went to see this Chinese doctor, and he said, well, first thing, you got to stop taking antibiotics. Second thing, you got a fungal infection. And third thing is a list of foods that you're sensitive to that you mustn't eat anymore. So I went home that afternoon and literally opened up the cupboards in my fridge and just threw everything away that I shouldn't have been eating. And I went to the supermarket and just bought a load of new food. That's just the kind of person I am. I understand not everyone is like that. Some people do like to make those small steps. Some people say, well, I've bought it, I might as well use it. And then when I renew it, I'll buy the stuff that's going to be good for me. We're all different. And when I'm coaching clients, I'm happy either way. Obviously, people get a quicker result if they rip the Band-Aid off in one go. But I also understand that that's a bit too far of a step for some people.
Everyone's differently.
Yeah.
And, you had a huge incentive. You did not want to look like that anymore. You wanted to get rid of that fungal infection and that acne and everything that was going on. So you were highly motivated to stick with it. And not everyone is highly motivated, and they need to find their why. They need to find their why, a really strong why. For me, my strong why is I don't want to get breast cancer like my sister did and suffer. And I want to teach so many people that they don't need to suffer in their lives. They can find whole foods that are healthy and yummy, and you can have chocolate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I teach my clients that, what's important is around a number of things, but particularly around food, is you need to be very clear on what your core values are.
True.
So, I'm not 100% strict. I'll happily go for a meal out that's, it might not be organic. I mean, it won't be terrible quality, it might not be organic, but I'll still eat right for my type. But I have a sensitivity to chili peppers.
Oh.
But my favorite foods are Thai and Indian. So I love to eat that kind of food, but I know the next day I'm going to suffer. But I make that decision consciously. So part of my values is that I'll eat those kind of foods occasionally, but I'll do it consciously, knowing that the next day I'm not going to be in such good shape, but I enjoy the experience while I'm having it, in terms of eating the meal, not the experience the next day. But it's a conscious decision. It's not, I'm doing that subconsciously and I'm doing it all the time and then wondering why I don't feel well.
Yeah, I get that. I was out to dinner on Monday night, and we had crabs. I was with 2 of my clients, actually. They were in town, and like, are we allowed to have crabs? I'm like, yes, you can have crabs tonight. Oh, you're having shrimp. Are you allowed to have shrimp? Yes. We're not food Nazis. You can have some shrimp. You can have some oysters. It's okay. And then they had these huge Nutty Buddies. I don't know if you know what those are, but it's a ice cream cone with chocolate over it and peanuts. And my husband got one, and I had a couple bites of his. Well, of course I'm going to have a couple bites. I'm human. I'm not going to be, no, I'm never going to have that. But I didn't order an entire one. It's huge, a nutty butt. Oh my gosh. And so you don't have to be a food Nazi. You just don't. It's okay to have a couple of bites here and there and also be aware. I love what you said. If I'm going to have chili peppers, I'm aware that I'm not going to feel good tomorrow. If I'm going to have sugar, I'm aware of how I'm going to feel tomorrow. Yeah. Activated charcoal might help you. I don't know if that'll help or not.
Maybe. Yeah. What would you say is your motivation that gets you up and out of bed every day to help women improve their health and lead a happier life?
I'm laughing because every morning my dog at 6 a.m. jumps on me. Yeah, I have 3 dogs and 2 of them pretty much jump on me and tell me to get out of bed. But what is my motivation? My motivation is I want you to live, I want women to have a joyful life. And as an entrepreneur, I love coaching other entrepreneurial women because I know the stressors that go on in their lives. They have to function. They have to manage the entire household, plus their business, plus their own health. And there's a balance again in there. And I just love to be the spokesperson to help them navigate through their day with joy, that they can get everything done and live in joy and health and have health freedom. It's a good word. I like that. Health freedom. Yeah. Yeah. So that's my incentive.
Yeah, I think a lot of us in our line of work, I think we get a lot of satisfaction out of the fact that we went through a journey ourselves and we saw the improvements we could make in our own lives through improving our health, and then coaching others to do the same. For me personally, that brings me a lot of satisfaction to do that.
Brings me a ton of joy.
So do you want to quickly just tell the audience a little bit about exactly how you work and what you do? Absolutely.
I'm a weight loss coach. I've been doing this for 22 some years. And my philosophy is very simple. And that's to eat foods the way Mother Nature taught us to eat them. That's walk, fly, grow, and swim. Walk, fly, swim, and grow. And how do I work with people? I work with people one-on-one as well as in some of my groups. And I'm launching my boot camp in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, there's all sorts of fun things that you can do to work with me. I also have a weight loss membership program called Finally Thin Forever. So yeah.
And you do cooking demonstrations as well, don't you?
I do cooking demonstrations for corporations, and I do them virtually and in person. And it's Tina's Joyful Kitchen. I love cooking. I love teaching people how they can find joy in the how they can find joy in the kitchen, even if they don't know how to cook or like to cook, so that they can live healthy, vibrant, and free from disease, free from diets, free from all that stuff. Just eat healthy.
Yeah, I need to find myself a woman that loves being in the kitchen, because I definitely don't. I have no passion for cooking. I absolutely love food and I'm passionate about nutrition, but I have no passion for cooking. So
watch my show. It's on YouTube. Tina's Joyful Kitchen.
Yeah, I still wouldn't enjoy it. I just don't enjoy cooking. I just don't enjoy it. I've got no passion for it.
Lee, if you say that, you are absolutely right. However, you can make small little shifts and chop your vegetables and just say, yes, I'm really liking chopping my vegetables. Shift your mindset, dude.
I'd definitely rather be doing something else.
There's no helping. You're funny.
I mean, I still think I prepare. I mean, definitely healthy food, definitely tastes good. I just don't enjoy the process. That's all.
Oh, okay. I love it.
So what's next for you, Tina?
In my life?
Yep.
What's next for me? Oh my gosh, so many things are next. I'm launching my boot camp, which is happening in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to Alaska in August. I started another business for menopausal women. It's the Menopause Support Group on Facebook, and we are filling ships with menopausal women and all of our care providers. We're doing workshops on the ship. And in September, I'm going to go on a bicycle trip through Tuscany with the company I used to work for.
Fantastic.
That's what's next for me.
And I'm guessing you speak fluent Italian as well.
Certo, sono italiana, che parlo italiano. Certo.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
And where can people find you online?
TinaMcDermott.com.
And social media?
You can find me under Tina McDermott, LLC. Just look for this face.
Cool. And I'll put all the links in the show notes as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Tina, thank you so much. I've really, really enjoyed this conversation, delving deep into your background and also your knowledge as well. And, how you help women and entrepreneurs to lead a happier and healthier life.
Thank you, Lee. I appreciate you so much.
Great stuff. So that's all from Tina and me for this week. But don't forget, you can join me same time, same place next week on the Radical Health Rebel podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to give the show a rating and a review, and I'll see you next time.